sponsored by the Ball-Chatham Education Association. I am Ken Carter, and I have the honor of serving as the moderator this evening. Members of the committee who have helped with this forum are Laura Sheedy, Melissa Reed, Kyle Andrew, Barb Ferris, Deb Sullivan, Carrie Cash, Lisa Whistler, Tina Root, and Bob Cox. We would like to thank Sean Bennett, a student, for videotaping tonight. He's located in the back. We would also like to thank three young ladies who are helping us out, fielding your questions and grabbing cards. And that will be Alyssa Weary's in the back. Alyssa, go ahead and wave your hands here, because later on I'm going to point them out again. Megan Pratt. And then there will be another person coming here shortly. Her name is Lexi Hunt, and they will go ahead and grab your questions, your cards, and bring them down to the committee down in front. So if you need more questions, if you need more cards, go ahead and flag them down. They will be more than happy to serve you. We will be accepting questions from the audience for the candidates' answers. As I had said, cards and pencils on which to write your questions. Even though we have them located here, just flag down one of the ladies and they will help you out. Please address your questions to all candidates, not just one candidate. You may bring your questions down, let me rephrase that, I lied. You may bring or flag down one of the ladies and they will bring the questions down for you instead of creating traffic down here. Tonight's honored guests include Mrs. Linda Carter from the Ball Township area, Dr. John Quetter from Woodside Township, Dr. Brandon Maddox from Woodside Township, Mr. Ethan Manning from Ball Township, Mrs. Lisa Weitzel from Woodside Township, Ms. Susan Worley from the Curran Township, and Mr. Gregory Urevich from the Woodside Township. There are 7 candidates who are seeking 4 seats. Membership on the Board of Education is restricted to a maximum of 3 members from any congressional township. On the basis of the existing board membership, members may be elected in the following numbers from each congressional township. Not more than 1 may be elected from Ball Township. Not more than 2 may be elected from Curran Township. Not more than 3 may be elected from Woodside Township. This in no way implies that you cannot vote for any of these candidates. All residents are eligible to vote, even if they do not reside in the same township as a board candidate. We will begin with the opening statements from each candidate. They have been asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes on their background, motivation for candidacy, and educational philosophy. We will begin then the rounds of questions once that's completed. The first round is a question that was given to the candidates about a week ago and was prepared by the BCEA Executive Committee. The first round will be limited to 3 minutes. The succeeding rounds will be limited to 2 minutes. We will end the rounds of questions shortly after 7:30 p.m. in order to allow each candidate 2 minutes for closing remarks. Refreshments and a meet and greet will close the evening next door in the home ec room. Questions can be submitted anytime during the forum. Just bring them down here. I'm going to keep saying that because it's written here. The questions may be submitted to the ladies in the back. Lexi's finally here. Lexi, come in and wave. There she is. We will rotate the first speaker so that each candidate will be given an opportunity to answer first. Our timer tonight is Tina Root. Tina, she is going to be the one who holds up the red card. So when you hit your maximum time, she's going to hold up that red card. That means it's time to stop. Before that point in time, she will hold up that fine yellow card, which indicates that you have 15 seconds to find the closing stop. 15 seconds. Shall we begin? Opening statements will now be heard. You will have 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Mrs. Carter.
No election, although that wouldn't be bad. I'd like to thank BCA for the opportunity to come before you today and for hosting this event. As many of you, Bill and I moved to Chatham because of the schools. We happened to do that 40 years ago. Before there were stoplights in Chatham, there weren't even many stop signs in Chatham. but we moved here because we wanted a good education for our boys. And my husband, 44 years, and I have not been disappointed. Bill Jr. and Dave have benefited from a challenging academic environment. They've benefited from the athletic and the music programs in our district. Billy graduated in, I'm the only one that can call him Billy, everybody else is Bill. Billy graduated in 1990, and he and his wife have 4 daughters in our school. David graduated at the turn of the century, 1999, and he and his wife are expecting their first child in August. After 36 years in education, I retired as principal of Ball Elementary in 2008. As my family said, I did not really retire because children and teaching and education are part of my heart and soul. The Ball-Chatham district has been an important part of my life for many, many years, and I can't walk away from it, especially during this very difficult time when we need expertise and education to balance our fiscal concerns. I want to continue my contribution to the community and to the schools and the children in our district. And I want us to meet the needs of this growing district with tightened pride. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about my philosophy that I have developed over my experiences in education and also during my time as 4 years on the Board of Education. I know that teachers change lives, they encourage success, and are the backbone of our community. All who work in the school district contribute to the success of our students. I love and respect teaching and have a love for learning at my core. And boy, have I learned a lot in my 4 years on the Board of Education. I know we must provide educational opportunities to support our students to make sure they are ready for work and college or whatever they choose to do when they graduate. We must support students who struggle with the high expectations before them. We must have support for those students who are achieving significantly higher than their peers. As a principal, I have to think out of the box, and as a board member, I will do the same. We must have support for our teachers, administrators, and all in our district. I want to leave where I started. I want to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be by Dr. Clutter.
Thank you. My name is John Clutter. In terms of background, we've come to my area where I grew up about 21 years ago when our kids were little. I've been a physician partner with the Springfield Clinic for those 21 years. I've been on volunteer faculty at the medical school, teaching and mentoring medical students and residents. I spent 8 years on the Educational Foundation before getting elected to the Board of Education 4 years ago. Before that, I spent my extra time coaching my kids and their friends with the soccer, YBA, CFL. I taught Sunday school at our local parish for 8 years to high school kids. My wife was involved in a PTO, and as our kids got into their high school years, I realized, well, we've been spending so much time with the schools and the school district, and we were so appreciative of what the school district had meant to our kids that I thought I would have some time to give back, and I'm proud to say that I have. And although being on the school board is probably more time than you think it's going to be when you get talked into running, it certainly has been a worthwhile experience. I wanted to say that from being on the school board, to me, there's 2 aspects to it that I'd like to stress. One is kind of a continuum. When you get elected to the school board, you kind of inherit decisions and policies that have been developed by the school boards that have come before you. You inherit, in our case, a superintendent with retirement plans, and you've got to start thinking about the transition to a new superintendent. You inherit a facility plan, action plans. You inherit a referendum to build a grade school, and a need. You come into a district that has a need, and when we get to a chance a chance tonight, hopefully, to talk about the challenges that are facing this district. I think on that list of the challenges, and probably on the top of the challenges facing the district is finances. And I hope I get a chance to explain how that fits in. My own philosophy on being in the school board is, and one of my themes has been to try to keep the school board in a strategic role, to keep us out of micromanagement situations so that we can hire a superintendent and administrators and teachers and staff to run the district where we make and help the community make strategic decisions that are in the best long-term interest of the school board. So that's kind of been my philosophy, and should I be fortunate enough to have your vote, I'd like to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be made by Dr. Maddox.
Well, hi everyone, I'm Brandon Maddox. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. John, I'm going to need an appointment on Monday because I'll have no vision after this meeting today. I'm a lifelong resident of the Ball-Chatham School District. Graduated from GHS in 1993. Then went on to SIU Edwardsville, graduated in biological sciences in 97. Went to SIU School of Dental Medicine in Alton, graduated from there in 2001, and then I came home. Associated with my own family dentist, bought in, and then bought him out subsequently in 2007. He stayed on as an associate with me and subsequently retired in 2011, so I've been solo since then. My wife Angie and I have 3 children. My oldest, my daughter's 5, she'll be 6 in May. My son's 4, and then we have an 8-month-old at home, so life's a little busy for us. But regarding my experiences here in the district, you know, I've been able to come full circle. Now I have my own kindergartner, or my kindergartner at my own Ball Elementary. And so the district's played a really large role in getting me to where I am and contributing to who I am. So why am I running? Well, I've always been the type that doesn't do well chiming in from the sidelines. If it affects me, my family, or what I value, I have to be involved in such a way that I can truly make a difference. And to accomplish this, in my opinion, a position on the Board of Education is the only answer. And I, as I know all of you, want the best for our kids, and in fact, many of our residents are here simply because of that they feel our district and our schools are the best. So this move makes complete sense to me. I want to be positioned to do exactly what I can to keep our district just that, the best. I hope that's the quickest intro you've got. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be by Mr. Manning.
Mine might be a little quicker here, but my name is Ethan Manning. I'm 32 years of age and was raised by Ball-Chatham educators, and I've lived in the district since 1994. At Tuesday's chamber forum, I expressed concerns where the district was headed. Tonight, in my opening statement, I would like to speak positive as to recent changes taking place in the district. So far, I have seen a positive openness since Ms. Van Alstyne has taken over as superintendent. I commend the board and the administrators for a salary freeze, and I also commend them for eliminating several administrative positions. They also did away with a series of outdated and unused titles, positions, and programs. Even though these initial endeavors have gone in good faith, there is still much to be done, and as it looks early on, I feel the board and Mrs. Van Alstyne are ready to make the platform to take the district into an uncertain future. If one was to follow local politics and current events, then they probably know my stance, and therefore I feel that with my time spent in Chatham, involvement with the school, and my fiscal hawk approach, that I will make a key addition to the board to take it into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be by Mrs. Weitzel.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight, and thank you to BCEA for having us. I'm going to talk softly, so I apologize. My name is Lisa Weitzel. My husband, Carl, and I have been married almost 25 years. We moved to the Springfield area in 1990. My husband was just retired as a lieutenant colonel with Delaware State Police, and we came here for his this room and the support staff, and I've spent countless hours and enjoyed every minute of it. In addition, I was fortunate to serve on some district-wide committees, and which just kind of fueled my interest to go ahead and run for the Board of Education. I felt like it was a natural extension of all of my experiences in the school district, and so I was elected 4 years ago. Currently, I am employed at the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. I started there about 1.5 years ago, and it was a new career direction for me, and it's been very enjoyable. I serve as the president of the Illinois Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives and the corporate communication manager for the Illinois Chamber. I continue my photography work that many of the people in the community know me for. And I also serve several roles at our local church here in Chatham. I'm a Eucharistic minister, and I teach the Ten Commandments to our high schoolers, which is always an interesting experience each year. I am a board member of the Illinois Women in Leadership and a member of the Association for Women in Communications, and I hold a Bachelor's of Science from Northern Illinois University. Essentially, I guess my philosophy for education is that I believe that education transforms children's lives. No matter the socioeconomic status, their intellect, all children deserve to have the best education possible to create bright futures for themselves and their children. And I'm willing to work hard to make those bright futures a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement is by Ms. Woolley.
Hi, I'm Susan Morelli, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in tonight's forum. Due to a job change, my husband, Ken Capitan, and I moved to the Ball-Chatham School District in 2005. My daughter, Melissa, graduated from GHS in 2008, and my son is currently a junior there. I have a strong financial background, and I would like to contribute my time and services to help navigate the district through these difficult times, both financially and otherwise. I received my master's degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting. Prior to that, I was reading an English major. I am also a retired certified public accountant. Working with numbers is what accountants do for their living, so this is second nature to me. Additionally, I have served on boards either in the role of president or treasurer. In fact, I was one of the co-founders of the Schools Not Pools initiative. The primary reason why I am running is that I believe there has been a lack of financial involvement, leadership, and oversight by the board during the last few years. This does not mean that my recommendation as an accountant will be that I will double check every general ledger account. But I believe it is the board's fiduciary responsibility to be good financial stewards of the district's monies. And it is also the board's responsibility to inform the community of modifications to previously publicized information, especially when such modifications have significant financial ramifications to members of the entire community. Of course, I am alluding to the Glenwood Elementary School's construction costs. My educational philosophy is for the district to provide varied opportunities to all students of all abilities, so that upon graduation, they may launch their future endeavors with the greatest amount of success possible. First, the governing framework, I believe, should be people over buildings, then academics complemented by curriculars. However, in the event that options need to be cut, I believe that academics take precedence. Thank you.
Our next opening statement will be from Mr. Duravich.
over the years, and I'm a little concerned with laying off teachers when we should have had adequate funds to keep those teachers in place. I have 3 children in the school district, so I have a vested interest in being here. I am concerned with making sure that we are academically challenging as a school system, that we provide a fiscal viability so that we are vibrating, we are able to get the best teachers and retain them. I also want to make sure that our extracurricular activities are in our athletics are second to none. There's no reason for us to not have very good programs and have them well funded. I believe we can also spend some time engaging the community and finding ways to find public funding, or excuse me, private funding to help out in the shortfalls that we're experiencing with the state. There's been many other communities that have been able to do that and leverage those funds so that we don't have the shortfalls that we have now. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration and accounting, and I have 27 hours towards a master's degree in education. I'm a veteran of the United States Army, and I've also spent 5 years as a college baseball coach. And I want to share my baseball philosophy because it's important. When I was a baseball coach at the college level, I always had every kid that I ever recruited sit down with me, and I always explained to them, at some point in time, you're going to be an ex-athlete. And it is very important that you trade your baseball skills for a career, and that you get educated, and that you leave this institution with an education. I want to make sure that happens so we have postgraduate success with our students as well.
Thank you. We have now concluded our opening statements. We are about to begin our round 1 of questions. The round 1 question was prepared by the BCEA. It is a 2-part question. We are going to start with Mrs. Carter, and after I read out the questions and she gives her answer, then we will alternate after that point in time for every speaker. I'm going to look at that. I saw the look. I will alternate after that. So I'm following my instructions. Our first speaker will be Mrs. Carter, and then all future questions will start the alternating round. And we will have 3 minutes for that question. The 2-part question. Part 1. What vision and leadership skills do you bring to the board to help navigate Ball-Chatham back to a fiscally sound district once again? Part 2. How will you balance the fact that we will soon be spending $35 million in building improvements on the heels of cutting dozens of jobs, including many teachers, as well as various extracurricular programs for students? You will have 3 minutes to answer. Questions after this round will have 2 minutes for allowed answers. Mrs. Carter.
Mr. Carter, I don't always have to be first. I'm not a person that always has to be first. My vision for the district is that at this time we're going to be able to weather those difficult financial times, restore our fund balances, and have a balanced budget so that our future needs will not be in jeopardy. How did I prepare for this position in leadership? Oh, I've been through lots of discussions in the last 4 years as to why and how we need to make sure that we cut $3 million from our budget so that we are able to reestablish fund balances that will help our district be secure. I also managed a large elementary school, managed the budget of the large elementary school. I had to determine what the wants and the needs were, and I had to oftentimes say, no, we can't afford that. So I know how to say no. I also understand the working and the management of the school and the impact that these cuts have had. And I want to continue to work to balance the budget without having it with the least impact, let me say the least impact on student learning. I want to work in partnership with BCEA to find ways of filling the gaps. In fact, we had a meeting last week that was very, very productive and a good give and take. I also look forward to having a good working relationship with our educational support personnel to find ways to improve the inner workings of our school. We needed the $35 million. That's a lot of money. We needed it to maintain the quality of our infrastructure and our schools. You know, as homeowners, you can't put off necessary becomes very counterproductive. Because we are a growing district, the addition to GES and GIS are necessary for us to be able to provide the instructional atmosphere that will best help our kids. And close to my heart is the 1926 wing of Ball Elementary. We needed to get rid of it because it's been condemned and it's a no longer usable space. With the replacement of that portion of Ball Elementary, we'll have additional space for students and staff. And by the time our final set of bonds are sold, we will be looking at, do we need to have more space at Glenwood High School? The financial district, the funds that we get from the state make up about 61%. No, that's not right. The local funds in our district are 61% of our total revenue. We are very fortunate to have a community that supports our schools. Are you sure? Just 3 more.
Dr. Clerk, would you like me to repeat questions?
No, I'm fine. There's an implication here that our district has been operating in an unsound manner, and I would like to take issue with that. Our district has been hurt by this, as all the school districts had, by the state of Illinois. I mean, that's the primary problem here. And I'll get back to my other theme too. That on the school board, you're part of a continuum. There's a strategic plan, and you inherit a district when you come on the board, and you inherit goals, and you try to make them work. We inherited a referendum to build a grade school. The grade school was estimated at a cost, and I've looked up these numbers, at a cost that was at the lower 25% of what it costs to build a grade school. That's what the estimate of the professionals and the prior school board had estimated when they put that referendum on the ballot. Well, we as a school board are trying to get a building built because we needed a grade school. We desperately needed a grade school. We're running out of space. We inherited the referendum to build this grade school with district reserves. The grade school was competitively bid, and I think some of those estimates, and I don't want to point fingers at the old school board or the retired superintendent, some of those estimates, though, I think were based on the fact that we were in the middle of the recession, and there was a lot of hope that the grade school could be built at a cost with competitive bids of contractors eager to work. Well, when the bids came back, they came back extremely high. Everybody was disappointed, but we still needed a grade school. We sent the bids back, competitively bid, and sent them out and got them back, and we ended up building a grade school. We had it, and the ultimate cost came in just over the national median for cost for building a grade school. We didn't build an extravagant grade school. Yeah, there were overruns. There was an extra $1 million in just preparing the ground for the foundation, but we got the grade school built, and we kept it under reserves. Even then, our school district financial situation would be sound if not for the state of Illinois not having given us $5 million over the last 4 years that the state of Illinois would have been statutorily required to give us if they were meeting their obligation. Now, we all know the state of Illinois has run out of money, and we're going to have to deal with that. All school districts are going to have to deal with that. There's another aspect to the kind of double question is that do we really have to choose between teachers and staff and buildings? Well, I would argue you need both. You need to have good buildings and you need to have teachers. And I don't like the idea that somehow you can't have buildings that put teachers in. You have to have buildings, and then you have to pay for teachers, but you need buildings too. Thank you.
Dr. Maddox, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, thanks. I'm pretty simplistic. My vision for the school is here just to make them great or keep them great. In terms of my leadership skills, up to this point, I've been heavily involved, basically in organized dentistry within my profession, with positions with the American Dental Association. I'm currently a member of the Board of Trustees for the Illinois State Dental Society. And And then, of course, you know, members of local organizations. I'm on the Kids Team board and then a member of the Bastards of Hope, which I anticipated coming in a tux tonight because I'm missing my first style show for their fundraising efforts tonight. But anyway. But in all these cases, I've been exposed to, you know, types of budgetary management to the extent that I feel boards should be involved, sort of from an umbrella type oversight perspective. In these roles, I've also gained a lot of experience being able to help evaluate the administrative staff and teams associated with our organizations that we have to rely on to achieve the goals that the board sets. And I know how important it is to trust in these individuals, but I also know that you need to keep informed and educated in order to provide the means to maintain checks and balances with these administrative leaders. And I'll also strive for more detailed information, ask questions, and hopefully play devil's advocate for the sake of vetting ideas and proposals. In terms of part two, I'm lucky or unlucky enough to be somewhat ignorant about everything that's been going on because I haven't been on the board. You see from the sidelines what's going on, watching hopefully numbers, this, that, and the other thing, and making judgments. But fortunately for me, I haven't had the opportunity to make the tough decisions as they have. I can't say for sure how truly I would balance the situation as worded in the second question, or second part of the question. I know that with the public's help, our district now has the means to accomplish needed facilities upgrades and maintenance to accommodate our growing student population, and it is growing immensely. If reserves had not been used in the past, maybe our issues with staff and activities wouldn't be discussed right now in this election. But however, our funding and trending as it is, especially with the state's condition, as you hear all of us talking about, and the only predictable part about that is it's going down, would then have necessitated a much more heated discussion later if we weren't tackling it now. Quite frankly, I'm not so sure we won't have these discussions again anyway because of the way the state's rolling. But what I can say with certainty is that I will evaluate the information provided me if elected to make the most prudent decisions for our students that I can at that time. Thank you.
Mr. Manning, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, sir. To answer the first part of the question, I think what serves me best is I don't have a track record. As I mentioned in my opening statement, if you have followed local politics and current events, you probably know my stance. The strategic initiative plan was 2020. To me, hindsight's 2020. When I look back and see things that I don't like, then I'm looking to make some changes on that. To answer the second part of the question, I've kind of outlined before I came here. I think we need to eliminate more administrators and or titles. Just for example, why do we need a district spokeswoman? That makes no sense to me. We're not that big. We're not anywhere close to a Springfield-sized school district. Clean up buildings and grounds. As I mentioned Tuesday, that flies largely under the public radar. Yes, it is in the minutes and it is posted, but I see out of hand, out of control spending over in the buildings and grounds section of the district. Action committees comprised of school officials and citizens. If we are going to make cuts, then we need to have a quote-unquote think tank to do it. And we need to get people in the community involved, because those are the people that we serve. This, simply put, make an overall concerted effort not to eliminate teachers. I don't care what you hire or what you build. No person makes a difference in the classroom in a child's life other than a teacher. Susan mentioned again Tuesday at the committee, or the forum up there, do we want it or do we need it? And it's simple too, it speaks for itself. And lastly, going off of that, as I looked at this question, I kept thinking, how can I answer this, how can I answer this? And I think, some of the things that you see that have gone on in this district has been more, we need to change our appetite. I don't think that spending money is necessarily a bad thing. Just simply put, we need to go from eating lamb to getting more of an appetite for chicken. Again, for example, do we need to rotate the bus fleet every 5 years? I don't think so. Again, for example, some would argue that the expense to fix the buses would catch up to the cost of the bus. Again, I think that type of mentality needs to go to the wayside, because the state is cutting money to us, and we have spent money over the last several years. And another thing that bothers me about that is we knew these cuts were coming. So some may tell you, well, the state's cutting funding to us, the state's cutting funding. We knew about it several years ago, but they still continue to spend. Times have changed. Thank you.
Mrs. Weisel, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, thank you. I have served on several boards in the Springfield community. As I said, currently I serve on the Illinois Women in Leadership Board, I've served on the Art Association Board, I've served on the board of the Westminster Presbyterian Preschool. I've also had the opportunity to take a lot of professional development that's offered to school board members through the Illinois Association of School Boards and National School Board Association, and have a master school board member status as a result of that. Learning, it's a big learning process when you serve on a board of education. It's significantly different than maybe smaller organizations, but just as valuable. And one of the most important skill that I bring is the ability to think strategically and long-term, and to understand the necessity that you hire the people that you need to do the right job. One of the most important decisions that our current board has made was to hire a certified school business official who specifically trained in the area of school finances. Patrick Murphy's initiated processes, policies, and procedures which have allowed us to better track our finances, allow more accurate and easier projections, and uncover more quickly any irregularities within our finances. In this new role that I serve with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, in which I'm our spokesperson, which is, I would have to strongly disagree. I understand the significant value of a huge organization, not huge, but a very large organization, and the importance of a local spokesperson that we have at Betsy Schroeder, because I serve that in my community, or in my job too, and it's imperative to be able to speak to the community about what is going on with it. But anyway, as part of my new career, I had the opportunity to begin to work with a lot of legislators on a statewide level. And through that, I've started to have conversations in my office. We regularly have legislators in for a variety of meetings. And it's been a great help for me to be able to say, you know, I think Senator McCann that we really have to focus on educational dollars. Can we talk about this for a minute? And you know what, he takes the time to speak with me for a minute. And I'm able to do that with legislators all across the state now because of my new job. And they understand and sort of taking the time. We still have a huge fiscal problem, but at least it's a skill that I bring to the board and an ability that I have that I now have contact with a lot of these different legislators statewide. On the second part of the question, how do we balance the fact that we're soon spending $35 million in building improvements? When the previous board decided to use reserves to build a new elementary school, one of the things that was brought to that board were images of children being taught in closets, teachers and students in closets. There was no way we could not have more building space. And that board also understood, because of the recession that we were in, that people were not going to approve a referendum to increase the property taxes. And I had totally run out of time. So by tightening our belts now, we can ensure meeting our needs in the future.
Ms. Wilson, would you like the question to repeat?
I'm stressing my financial strengths because at this time I think they're especially needed. I did, during the course of our grassroots initiative, always ask the question, is the sports complex a need or a want? And I am relieved that we garnered enough support from the community to request the board reverse its decision, and I think they most appropriately did. Over the years, I've attended the board meetings, and during last April of 2012, I gave a short, exactly 5-minute speech, that's all you're permitted, statement to the board that I was very worried about the precipitous decline in the education fund balance. I said that because I saw this glamorous new school going up, when I truly think parents would have foregone the elaborate 2-story A-train it is not cut in stone. For tonight's preparation, I looked at the strategic 2020 plan again. This was dated in January of 2010, and the financial stability in January of 2010 is so different from what it is today. I hope that if I'm elected, I could advocate to the newly elected board that we take a moment and everyone review where we are today operationally versus what our capital projects are being planned for. Yes, you do have a $35 million bond referendum. It does not mean you have to spend all $35 million. Furthermore, I have to say I'm very disappointed that in January of 2010, the former superintendent had listed the Glenwood Elementary School cost at $17.941 million, and yet 3 times prior to the election, the district supplied number was 12.3. Somewhere there was not a community forum to update the community, and maybe they would choose something different than building a GES school. Thank you.
Mr. Yurevich, would you like the question repeated?
Oh, no, sir. It's always tough to follow after Susan because she makes so much sense to me when I listen to her. I, too, am a fiscal person. I've spent the last 10 years of my life managing budgets. I teach 148 different hospitals every year how to manage their money. Some of those people get $500,000 from me. Okay, so I'm immersed in this stuff. I can tell you I looked very thoroughly at how we spent money over the last 4 years, which is the last 4 years that the board members were in place. We went from a $21 million fund down to $3.7 million we've got sitting in there now before we do the other things. You know, I hear board members tell me, you know, we've got some good fiscal controls in place, but then I sit at the board meeting and I hear the guy that's giving the fiscal report tell me that he's got accounting or auditing findings that still haven't been dealt with. You know, that, as an auditor, you know, I spent 20 years auditing. That doesn't sit right with me because if we don't have good fiscal controls in place and we're not fixing our audit findings, then we're not doing a good job. And it's obvious to me when I look at the money and how we burn through our burn rate that we're not doing a good job. You know, what we're here as a board to do is make sure that our teachers have the tools and the skills and that we keep them, you know, prepared to teach our students. And if we can't manage our money successfully, we will not be able to accomplish that mission. You know, I can tell you when we talk about cost overruns in building a new school, you know, when we write contracts, are we putting language in those contracts to keep those contractors, you know, on task and on time, so we're not paying, you know, overruns? You know, are we managing the process? Are we having, you know, changes to the process? You know, and I don't think we do a good job of communicating with the public either. I agree with Susan when she says, you know, we need to have dialogues with the public and find out what they think. Should we make a change to a project and allocate more money to it? You know, when somebody tells me they're going to spend $12.8 million building a elementary school, and that's what I expect it to come in at. You know, when it comes in at $18 million, I don't understand that. When we take all of our reserves and we spend them down to next to nothing, I sit there and I think, why didn't we amortize it over 30 years or 15 years and save some of those reserves? Because Murphy always comes calling when we don't have any money in the bank. As far as the $35 million that we're going to venture out, my advice and what I would do as a member of the board is I would make sure that we're spending that money well and that we're being good stewards of it. We're writing good contracts. And then when we're securing vendors, we're getting vendors from the community. You know, I saw a proposal the other day where we had one vendor bid on something for a $225 heating and cooling system. I cannot believe that he was an out-of-state bidder. I cannot believe that we had one vendor in this area that would want that business. So I'm frustrated.
We are about to begin our audience-generated questions. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for the questions generated by the audience. We are going to begin with Dr. Quetter. This question is going to be posed to all members, and they will all be given an opportunity to answer. The first question: how will you keep yourself informed about the goings-on in each building, and what role do you see yourself having on a daily basis? How will you keep yourself informed about the goings-on in each building, and what role do you see yourself having on a daily basis?
I'm going to go back to my vision for the school board as a strategic body. We keep ourselves ultimately informed by hiring a superintendent who runs the district. And we expect the superintendent to inform the school board of a problem. And I would have to say, we've had a good relationship with the superintendent since I've been on, and we've been kept informed with the goings-on in the building. I'm comfortable going forward with our new superintendent, that we will continue to do and continue to receive the feedback that we need to make strategic decisions at the school board level. But I have to respond to some of the allegations. In the first place, our year-end budget is not $3 million. Our year-end budget is $7.4 million. I looked at these numbers before I came in. We did start out with $24 million, and the grade school, when first bid, with competitive bids, was bid out at $21 million. We set back, we cut back the grade school, and we got it billed at $17 million. Again, competitive bids, $17 million. And ultimately with furnishing an $18 million building, again with competitive bidding processes. Ultimately, we had started out with a balance of $24 million in the fiscal year that ended in 2009. You take out that $18 million, and that puts you down around $2.4 million. Well, the good news is we're at $7.4 million. We're not at $3 million. We're not at next to nothing, as was said. Again, if you added in the $5 million we were expecting to get from the state in the last 5 years, we would be at $13 million. Now, yeah, we knew the state was going to cut back. We thought the state would freeze reimbursements, but again, the state has done even worse than that. They've been cutting reimbursements to the tune of $5 million over the last year, and it's not just our school district. Every school district is dealing with these problems.
Dr. Maddox, are you looking to repeat the question?
I think I'm okay. I'd sort of like to reiterate what Dr. Blair said. The school board is an oversight, policy-setting type organization. So from the standpoint of how would I find out about day-to-day activities at the schools, I would hope it would come from our administration. Obviously the superintendent, but then you would also assume principals would be filling us in as well from that standpoint. Once in a while we might be able to get around and see what's going on in person because we want to and we care about it. In terms of monitoring everything day by day, the pay is not really awesome for that for us up here. But you have to care about what's going on in the buildings, but we also have to trust our staff. And that's one thing that I would hope our community also would understand.
No, sir. I would somewhat disagree with that. Obviously we pay good money to get good folks in here to run our school in the upper echelons of the district. But let's face it, board members have full-time jobs with full-time families in many cases. They don't have time to necessarily get all the facts and figures, so they depend on the superintendent, assistant superintendent, principal, and so on and so forth. One of my greatest assets is I know so many people in the district, little birds, people tell me things. I'm involved in the school. I can't help but be. And I read and watch these board meetings and these so on and so forth experts tell things to the board members. It's comical and it's irritating too. Because I know it's not right. I know it's a bunch of hogwash. And I just plain don't like it. And that's one of the reasons why I am running. So I will be at ground level, and I will make time to get involved. If I just stop in to a building, just to check up on things, talk to some folks, shake some hands, I'm promise you I will do it. The other thing too that I like to change, if you read the Channel Clarion this week, I put in there, with the old administration, I'm not necessarily pointing fingers at Mrs. Van Alstyne, but with Bob Gilman, I felt that there was arrogance and disconnect. When you're elected to this position, you serve the community, and don't forget it. Just because you have an agenda doesn't mean you have to run with it, you have to stick to it. And I just felt like the board shut themselves down and didn't listen to other folks. And I will not have any of that. So I will tell people from the community, if there is an issue or a concern, if I am elected, please contact me. Thank you.
Mrs. Weinzel, would you like to repeat the question?
No, thank you. It's not the role of a board member to second guess what is going on in an individual building. Does that mean I don't know what's going on in individual buildings? Well, I do. We hire our superintendent. We hire Mrs. Van Alstyne. She does a wonderful job. We trust her to report to us what's going on in individual buildings. But more importantly than that, if my sister doesn't keep me involved in all of the work that she's done in all the buildings, I talk to community members or my friends and my fellow members at my church and people who I work with every day. I talk to people all the time. I run into them at Cafe Moxo, or I run into people on the street, at the library. We're always talking about the schools. We always know what's going on at the schools. Anytime I have a concern, I just call whoever I would be the right person. I've been talking with Mrs. Larson a great deal lately about some of the concerns of our community members who've shared them with me. I always make time to talk with our community members, and I always have. And I think that is what has been a major strength of my service to the board, and it certainly would continue. But as involved on a day-to-day basis of running the buildings, that's not my role.
Ms. Worley, would you like to have a question?
Yes, please.
How do you keep yourself informed about the goings-on in each building, and what role do you see yourself having on a daily basis?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is respect the experts that you have hired, and I will do that. I agree that it is not my role or any board member's role to interfere with, and I use that word, interfere, purposefully with the building activities. Now, one way I would learn about what's happening is I would just go to the website and zip through each school's newsletters. You can get that very easily. As far as the more confidential issues within the respective buildings, I agree with the other members at the table that the superintendent and the assistant superintendent of instruction would provide that update. They're both professionals, they know their obligations, and I respect them highly. So I think that summarizes my position.
Thank you. Mr. Yuravich, would you like me to repeat the question?
I'd just like to echo that I agree with her. I think Terry Van Alstyne has done a great job. I mean, the board meetings that I've been into, she's done a great job. I've been very pleased with the information she provides. I have no complaints there. I think we got her at heart, to be honest with her. I'm happy with her. As far as communicating with the buildings and the superintendent, I think that they're going to make that information available to us. And I also think Betsy Schroeder does a great job. And I am in favor of having a communication person because I think we need to do more of that with the community. I think that information needs to go out, and I think we need to have that person there as a bridge so we can dialogue. But I think the things that I need to know as a board member, they're going to be communicated to me. And yes, we put a lot of trust in Ms. Van Alstyne to take care of these things. We have professional administrators, and they will take care of those things. But at the same time, I believe as a board member, I have full accountability. And when things are not done properly, I think we have the ability as a group, to take action to make sure that things happen.
Thank you. Mrs. Carter, would you like the question repeated?
No.
Thank you.
I'm not going to reiterate what everyone has said because I think there is the agreement there that the board is strategic. We look at the strategic goings-on of the district. We leave the tactical part to the administration. We need to trust them to respond to us about what is going on. I agree with Susan, the newsletters and the website are an excellent way to know what's going on in the building. But really the work of the board is to establish the goals, and we had a goal-setting opportunity in which Greg, Brandon, and Susan were invited, and all candidates were invited, and Greg, Brandon, and Susan were able to join the board members on a couple of sessions in which we worked to establish goals for our district. And then we asked the administration to find ways to accomplish those goals. We are the ones that help set those goals. The administration is the one that carries those out. The goals we looked at and have more work to do on establishing those goals were in the area of financial responsibility, community responses, academics, personnel hiring, retention, and communication. Those are the areas that we are establishing goals. We are looking at doing those because our 2020 is accomplished. We're ready to move on to something else.
Thank you. The next set of questions will begin with Dr. Maddox. The next question posed by the audience is, what is your view on proposed boundary changes for Glenwood Elementary? What is your view on proposed boundary changes for Glenwood Elementary?
My view is that there are options, and people are still talking through them. One of the things I said in the candidate forum on Tuesday, one of the bigger issues that I'm realizing in running for the board is communication. Although the district is really trying at it and working at it very hard, is still a little bit of a challenge for the district. And Tuesday or Monday night's board meeting about the district boundaries was a perfect example of that. Just a letter that went out to parents basically stated that the decision was made when you reread it, and that's not the case. And so once everybody realized that they would be heard and the ideas could be vetted out, it sort of alleviated some steam. But I think one of the things that interested me the most was the idea that this is potentially a very temporary issue, considering the changes that are going to be going on at GES in terms of construction. So one of the options I hope to see vetted really well is the idea of possible mobile classrooms. That was very enticing to me. I know there's other issues with it that I'm unaware of in terms of security and things like that. I'm not the foremost authority on that, so I can't really say if it's a wonderful idea. But that's the one that had the most appeal to me. But I think there's still ideas out there, and I can't really tell you my true view on it yet because I haven't really seen what everybody will filter out to come up with sort of their final idea.
Mr. Manning, would you like the question repeated?
I think, again, this is, we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday as well, and I have to agree with Mr. Maddox. It's just minimizing the shock on that area that it would affect. I think that a possible solution would be look into modular buildings, again, to minimize it. But again, this just plays into doing your homework, research. I know, again, the Clarion posted, there was a parent there talking about how my child's going to one school and my next door neighbor's child's going to another school. That's the type of stuff that I want to see minimized the most. And these are tough calls. Are you going to please everyone? Probably not. When we dealt with this a couple years ago with bus routes. And I thought the district did a fine job with bus routes and then tweaked them afterwards. But again, just doing the research is needed to, again, minimize the most shakeup. Thank you.
Mrs. Weitzel, do you need a question repeated?
No, thank you. There's been a lot of concern in the community. One of the things that I wanted to bring up was there was concern from folks who had attended the last few board meetings that this wasn't an open issue, and maybe it's a plug for Mr. Pritchett, but I think that if people consistently read his articles in the Clarion about reporting on board meetings, that they will become extraordinarily well informed on what is going on. regards to many, many things, and the overcrowding at GES certainly has been publicized since the day that that school opened. Do I wish to see children who move boundaries, move schools, move again and again? No, absolutely not. At first, I thought perhaps mobile classrooms could potentially be a temporary answer, and actually, I don't believe in that anymore for two essential reasons. One is security. We don't live in a world any longer where I feel comfortable having classrooms in a non-enclosed area that would have easy accessibility to them. And the other thing is the cost. They're not cheap. The administration has talked about different recommendations about utilizing our room and the music room, and I think what I need to do is fully wait for the administration to bring us recommendation, and what I have asked the administration is to actually survey the parents who would be affected as to how they might want to see things handled. Do they want to see overcrowded classrooms first, to figure out where our growth patterns are continuing to go? Do they want to have art on a card, music on a card? Is that an acceptable option for them? I am concerned about taking the teacher's lounge as a classroom, because I know that I used to substitute in the district, and that space for those teachers is really, really important. It's just important to be able to have that time. So I think that I just need to listen to everybody and ask the administration to consider the parents' views.
Ms. Williams, would you like to hear the question?
No. Actually, between Tuesday night and tonight, I thought about the boundary changes more carefully. It was I who mentioned that my daughter basically finished 4th grade in a mobile, and she learned just as well as anyone else in the building classroom. Security is not insurmountable. I mean, you can put a fence around the mobile. It's not insurmountable. But I began to think that moving boundaries, always changing boundaries, may not serve the district as well as basically saying, if you have started this school, you will stay at the school. And if the district needs to continue to transport kids to different away, basically not your home school, so be it. Because right now, this year, new transfers that have arrived are being bused to a school other than their home school. Have they suffered? I would think not. These kids are then going to be bused back. Next year, they will start back at their home school. So instead of moving 67 students from Fox Creek, you are actually moving 78 students, because those 11 transfers are now going to GES. The options will be studied. I have no doubt about that. And the administration did listen to the concerned parents, and they are looking at options. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duregas, would you like to have a question here?
No, thank you. I think this is another one about communication issues. You know, I think people are reasonable in nature, and I think if we would have approached it differently, and maybe instead of sending out 60 letters, we would have made 60 phone calls, and we would set up some sort of focus group so we could dialogue and discuss this. I think it would have made more of a difference in these people. But, you know, kids are resilient. You know, my children are resilient. They're going to make new friends, and sometimes you got to make tough decisions in the district. If I was a parent, you know, or if it was one of my children, you know, yes, that would be difficult for me to deal with. But you know what, we have to make tough choices. That's just part of what we do in the education world. But we have to, you know, make the choices at least benefit the children. I mean, that's my bottom line. And as far as the modular units, I don't see any problem, you know, with having those units. I think you can put further out there. You know, I work with security and bioterrorism. And, you know, we deal with these issues all the time. Our hospitals are constantly doing this stuff. I don't think there is a security risk to the children. I think we can protect them well enough to do that. I think that may be the only idea you have at the current time to deal with it on the short term.
Mrs. Carter, would you like to add a question?
Boundary issues, like busing issues, are always difficult because they involve children, and they involve children and their parents. And so those make the decisions even more difficult. And I think anytime we have difficult decisions to make, it's important to have good communication, not only in what is currently happening, but the thought process behind why the options that are being considered are on the table. I know the options have been discussed by administration months before the meeting we had last week. And those options are still being developed. Survey with GES parents is going to be very important to see, because it not only affects those students who are possibly moving to another school, but it also affects all the students at GES. And then when you think of a mobile classroom, there is an expense to a mobile classroom. Getting a mobile classroom, getting it installed, if we would need to put a fence around it, all those are expenses that we would have to look at. Is that really what we want to do for a year's time? And also we need to consider this class size that will be impacted at GES. Whether we move students or whether we don't move students, how is that going to impact the learning of each and every student in that school?
Dr. Ford, would you like to continue?
Thank you. Growth is a good thing in a community for a school district. It means in part that families want to move here. They want to be a part of our community. They want to be in our school district. And it helps, just as a taxpayer now, without kids in the district, it helps your home value. It helps your real estate value. But growth comes with troubles, and we know with 3 grade schools in the district, and the fact that the school district cannot control where subdivisions go, the school district has no control over whether or not the boundaries we used last year will and can apply to boundaries that will need to be in place in 2 or 3 years for the 3 grade schools that we have. So I think we got to accept that there may be change to boundaries as years go by. I think it's I'll defend the administration a little bit, but maybe the communication could have been a little better to the families that were being considered moving. But this was a public topic that was discussed for more than a couple of weeks. This was discussed at several board meetings and made a part of the Clarion too. So, but I think in the end you want administration to kind of give you their best recommendation, whether it is for mobile classrooms or not. And I think that to get back to the strategic role of the school board is to set the priorities of what you want, when the boundaries have to be changed, within what context, within what priorities is administration going to look at making those changes? How are they going to bring to us a recommendation? And I wrote down a list of 7 or 8 priorities, but it's not just my priorities. It would be a discussion for the board to maybe articulate a little better and a little more publicly the priorities that we wish the superintendent and her designees to make boundary decisions for the future. Thank you.
We are about to begin our final set of questions before we move to closing remarks. The last set of questions will begin with Mr. Manning. Are you ready? It's a little lengthy, so
Okay.
I'll say it twice and have at it. In light of all the bad press in recent months, lost buildings, extra bus purchase, costs of Glenwood Elementary exploding from $12 to nearly $18 million, and pending litigation against the former superintendent, how will you assure checks and balances in the district office moving forward? Once again, the question reads, in light of all the bad press in recent months, lost buildings, extra bus purchase, costs of the Glenwood Elementary exploding from $12 to nearly $18 million, and pending litigation against the former superintendent, how will you assure checks and balances in the district office moving forward?
Well, I think the best thing that happened is we got Mrs. Van Alstyne, Bob Gill was gone. I think that was half the problem right there. So, I mean, I can seriously, I mean, I've said some strong stuff, and it's hard to be diplomatic about it. I've printed many articles in the paper and Chatham Clarion, but honestly, I feel a whole new vibe in this district when she came in. So, I guess flattery gets you nowhere, but I do mean that. The other thing too is make somebody accountable. I mean, you do look at everything that we lost and was misallocated and so on and so forth. Nobody was held accountable for it. It's just like, okay, well, we'll just keep on going with it. So I think that's one thing. The other thing too is we have a CFO aside from Mrs. Van Alstyne, and keep in mind some of those duties are hers of her own to take care of. But I think it's key to get those two individuals and other individuals in the unit office to just clamp down, easily said, to clamp down on checks and balances and make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, that nothing slips through the cracks. Simply put, thank you.
Mrs. Weitzel, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. I think we've done a few things in the last few years to combat some of the issues that have come up. And we've hired, like Mr. Manning said, we've hired a wonderful superintendent. We've hired a certified school business official, and right there is a check and balance between each other. This district has never had that. Part of the reason was this district was never large enough to have that. And then in the last several years, we've grown exponentially, and we've needed that position. And since we've hired that additional position, I think it's been a big help. And as that position has grown, and as Mr. Murphy's grown into his position, he has instituted some of his own checks and balances. We approved a lengthy procedural document the other night that will more closely track and align what happens in the district office with policies and also throughout the district. And also we, as a board, have asked for additional reporting made to us at the monthly board meetings to further clarify different financial positions, different spending positions, and how exactly we stand financially. And so the board is continuing to work together to ensure that the policies and procedures and the necessary people have been hired to make sure that we continue to do the next correct thing.
Ms. Wilson, would you like to have a question, please?
Sounds like there's a table of accountants here tonight, but I was at that meeting, and in fact, that administrative manual has been updated. It outlines a lot of the checks and balances that need to be addressed. That also is a living document. You look at that and make the changes. So I think that's a very good first step. I also think it's important for board members to ask those questions in their mind. Well, now what's the check and balance to this problem at hand? You don't need to have all the answers that night. You just need to be assured that that aspect of a problem has been addressed. I would say this, no one can judge the moral fiber of a person at an employment interview and in a particularly small office, which is the district. When you have a large office where there's 25 or 30 people, checks and balances inherently are born. It's much more difficult in a small district office. But having said that, I think it was the board's responsibility to provide some oversight on the superintendent's expenditures. How do you do that? Very easily. One day, you drop in and you ask the person, doesn't have to be Patrick Murphy, you ask the person, will you please pull Mr. Gillen's vendor file? Because he's a vendor, checks have been cut. Will you please pull all the documentation that goes with that? And I'd like to see the check register. And you put it together to see if it works. A minor omission is completely acceptable. A pattern is not. Thank you.
Mr. Yurevich, would you like to have a question?
No, I'm good. I think think it, comes down to accountability, and I think board members were the ultimate, or were the people that are ultimately accountable for that.
Microphone has come down to you. Do you have any questions or any?
No, thank you. No, thank you, because those are really issues that have caused a lot of headaches, and I just do not hear them again. Because you're right, it has been a lot of bad press. I think we have said this often as a board. We used to be a small district. We are no longer a small district. We are a large district. And we have since employed people to help us manage that larger district. We have a certified fiscal officer now, which is the first time we've had that. And it takes a while for him to fix everything that needs to be fixed. And I do want the public to know that all of the issues that you stated, Mr. Carter, in the question, have been discussed thoroughly by the board. Many of them, in fact, a large portion of them, are personnel issues, things that we have had to deal with as a board, in personnel matters, legal matters, that we have covered thoroughly. But we can't always say what the personnel what the personnel action was, what the legal action was, for privacy. That's the law. We can't always state what those things are. And I guess we're just asking you to trust us that when things like that happen, we do what we need to do to fix them.
Dr. Porter, would you like to do this question?
No, I'll echo, we don't need to hear about the bad press. 4 years ago, we came into a school board in a district where we had a bookkeeper, as has been mentioned, and a superintendent who basically did most of the financial background. So, and I think it was clear as those 4 years went by to this board that we needed a better checks and balances. Now, I'm not an accountant. I'm not going to go in and go over the Van Alstyne's expenses and make sure they match. But I think that the board realized we'd outgrown the accounting practices that we had, and we needed more. And we kind of graduated through. We brought in a retired superintendent to do financials for a year or two, and that didn't work to our satisfaction. And so we kind of upped the ante to a certified official now who provides a check and balance. And it was some of those checks and balances that delineated some of the problems that came up, just without saying any more than that. The one thing you want to be able to do is trust your superintendent, and I'm glad everybody likes the superintendent we've chosen. I take that as a compliment for the board, as it was the last 4 years, because we went through a very public process that included community input and interviewed many good candidates for the superintendency here, and we picked the one that we thought was going to work out the best. And the board has to have a trust in a superintendent. The superintendent is actually a member of the board. They're a non-voting member of the school board. There are 8 members on the school board, and there has to be trust amongst everybody, including trust with that superintendent. And I think we've got that. We've got that now.
Dr. Max, would you like to have a question of Peter?
No, thanks. We have to learn from mistakes. People are going to make them. You can't prevent. I mean, I'm not making excuses for anybody either, by the way. But you can't prevent everyone from doing anything dumb, irresponsible, or immoral. You can't prevent 100% of that. All you can do is try. Up until the point something happens that's inappropriate, systems were good, and then something goes wrong, and all of a sudden it's everybody's fault. Well, they didn't see it coming. And from now on, that thing, or whatever it is, event, isn't going to happen again. From the standpoint of any of us being on the board, are we going to make a mistake or two? Most likely. But in terms of these sorts of things, you just have to try really hard to put the systems in place in order to allow the staff to handle things appropriately, But then again, you also do have to ask questions, and make sure that things are reported to you as well as you can be. And up until those points, everyone felt like they were, most likely, everyone felt like they were being reported to well, until all of a sudden a building's lost, or something of that nature. To make light of it, but, so, I mean, all I can say, if I were on the board, is that, well, I'll try. I can't say with 100% certainty that nothing will ever happen while I'm in that position. That won't get bad press. So thanks.
We're about to begin the closing statements. I've been asked to reiterate that there are 7 candidates seeking 4 seats, and membership on the Board of Education restricted to a maximum of 3 members from any congressional township. On the basis of the existing board membership, members may be elected and the following numbers from each congressional township. Not more than 1 may be elected from Ball Township. Not more than 2 may be elected from the current township. Not more than 3 may be elected from the Woodside Township. This in no way implies that you cannot vote for any of these candidates. All residents are eligible to vote, even if they do not reside in the same township as the board candidate. We will now begin the closing statements, and thank you all for being here tonight. The next candidate to speak with the closing statement will be Mrs. Weiss.
Thank you again, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Mr. Carter, Ms. Wood, and everybody else who made this, and Mr. Cox, who made this evening possible, and Mrs. Sheedy, who couldn't be with us tonight. I appreciate all of your time. Appreciate all the many, many years that I've had the opportunity to serve this district, whether it's been volunteer in the classroom, volunteer in the library, a substitute teacher, a member of the different communities I've been fortunate enough to serve on. I appreciate the trust that everybody has always shown in me. I did value my 4 years on the board. I think what Dr. Maddox said, could we make different decisions if we had a crystal ball? Of course. I'm committed to doing the next right thing as much as I can. When we make mistakes, we own up to them, and within the ability we are allowed to legally discuss things that openly, we will, and when we can. And but
and it's not a bad thing to say, I goofed, let's do it better in the future. So finally, I would like to say that using my accounting skills, my past experience as a board member, my interest in being, my interest in the educational platforms of the district, that I think I could be an effective board member and serve the community well for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Our next closing statement will be by Mr. Gravich.
I think what we do is really important. I think this is serious business that we have. We touch the lives of children, and children matter. Children are our future. They're what's going to take care of us when we get older. And those are our future doctors, our future attorneys, our future accountants. My experience in the fiscal field, in auditing and accounting, is something that's needed on this board. We need somebody with those skills on this board, because we need to make sure that our children get the best education they can. And the only way we're going to be able to have a great education for our children is to financially be viable. Because if we can't pay our teachers what they deserve, if we can't pay our support staff what they deserve, if we can't retain those people, then our children don't have a chance. I thank all of you for coming out here, and I appreciate your vote. And I would like to let you know that if anybody needs to contact me, I do have a Facebook page, and it's under my name. And I have my personal cell phone number out there, and you can call me anytime you want. Please don't make it too late. Thank you.
Our next closing statement will be made by Mrs. Carter.
You know, my notes just really don't cover everything that I want to say. You know, the Board of Education is designed to be made up of a diverse group of people in the community, and that's exactly what we need. There's a reason there's 7 of us. We all come with different expertise, different ways of doing things, different questions that we ask, different ways to look at things. Our Board of Education, I feel, is a group of people who really will and have asked the questions that needed to be asked. We didn't all ask the same questions. We didn't all know the same questions to ask, but we've had lots of good, thoughtful discussion. I think the Board of Education needs to foster learning and listening to each other, listening to the community, and that's how we can keep some of those mistakes from happening and learning from mistakes. You know, a popular saying in education is there's no stupid question, and that's exactly what needs to occur on the Board of Education. There is no stupid question. There's no stupid comment. It is something that we all have to work together to make sure that we can have a good dialogue. As a professional educator for my entire life, I feel that I could bring thoughtful expertise to what is going on in our district to help balance all those financial decisions that we have to make in the next few years. Thanks.
Our next closing statement will be made by Dr. Clare.
I want to thank, I guess, the community for giving me the opportunity to have served on the board the last 4 years. I'd like to thank the fellow candidates who care enough to be here and to run for school board. I want to thank the teachers for putting on this forum again. I mean, you guys have been doing this every other year for I don't know how many years, but we all appreciate that chance. And I want to thank everybody for coming too, because you guys are here because you care about the schools, and I do too. That's why I'm asking for another 4 years. I care about public education. I'm a product of public education. I hate to see the challenges that we're facing. I had a list of challenges. It's like 20 or 30, but it starts with the finances, and I think we all understand the pressure that the state is putting on our finances. I'd like to say I've kind of articulated that the board needs to make its decisions based on its strategic goals and strategic plans, and when you're faced with a choice of X, Y, or Z, the board, I would hope, would choose the recommendation of the superintendent that fits with the goals and the plans that have already been stated by the board. And also, as I ask for your vote, I would would like to say that I'd like to continue. We've had some progress toward aligning a performance-based evaluation system for teachers and for administrators, and for the superintendent, and for the board, and for district performance. And I'd like the chance to try to continue to move that forward and help work on the Capital Area Career Center, which is another issue that's something that's struggling with finances over there, but an important part of the education of some of our kids. I would say I pledge that I'd look for new and better and less expensive ways to do things, and be willing to listen and hopefully bring new ideas forward. And always, I think, in this day and age, whether it's medicine or education, there's an effort to, I think, challenge the status quo and then embrace whatever changes will come out of that. And that's my pledge. Thanks, Pete.
Our next closing statement will be made by Dr. Max.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate, thank you very much for coming on here Thursday evening at the edge of your seat and watching me fumble through questions. I am doing this. I hope if you're looking for a candidate who is just upset with the system and wants to change it all and reform everything, I ain't it. Don't vote for me. I'm simply here because I want to participate. This district is a part of my past. It's now a part of my future. It's made me who I am, and I want to be there. And I want to be there for to have the ability to help guide the future of my kids in their district, and to make it the best that it can be. One of the things that I take great comfort in right now is the fact that I've met everybody and talked extensively with everybody up here, and no matter what happens, I'm cool with it. So thank you very, very much for having us here this evening, and you can vote for me, it's okay.
And our final closing statement will be made by Mr. Manning.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I'd like to recap a little bit, just clarify. There were some questions early on that I had said that I don't know that I would necessarily listen to everything that the administration tells me as a school board member. It seemed like the other candidates said that they do and they trust it. Make no mistake, we pay these people good money and they are experts. I will listen to them. I think more what I'm saying is I just want to ask a few more questions, look a little bit deeper. And I am not looking to micromanage anything or necessarily reform anything drastically. I think the biggest issues that face this district outside of finances are checks and balances, accountability, and communication, which I think were shut down over the last couple of years. I'm looking to change that and hope that opens back up. Another thing too is you will make some tough decisions as a board member. I am aware of that. You're not going to make everybody happy all the time. I do promise the people of this community that I will always tell you how I feel, and I won't sugarcoat it. But I also realize I have understanding too, at this level, you get into more what the teachers teach. And at this higher level, the business of education isn't necessarily education, it's business. So that's kind of the approach I take and the outlook I take upon it. So again, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and get out and vote on the 9th. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending. Please feel free to participate in the refreshments and meet and greet that is in the Colbeck room. Thank you all.
Thank God.